My time is counted, so I will dig right in. Today I will present to you the Open Food Network, on which I'm working on as a PhD and a fellow at the ICDE. So, sorry. Okay, what is the Open Food Network? Incorporated as a nonprofit, it's an international network that develops and distributes a digital platform that's based on open source software and that enables developing, and managing and organizing local food hubs or direct-to-consumer sales of local products. So this self-called Global Digital Food Commons was created in 2012 in Australia by two women, one of which was a former civil servant working on climate change and the other an anthropologist working on local farmers' relation to change. So they both wanted to create an accessible and sustainable alternative to the very centralized production and distribution food systems in Australia. And to do so, they created a local food hub, and they quickly realized that their work would be made much easier with the use of a digital tool, and finding none that responded to their needs nor values, especially that of decentralization, they decided to develop the Open Food Network. So the Open Food Network has now been around for more than 10 years, and it's now present in about 25 countries in the world, or so-called local branches, half of which have been developed during the COVID pandemic. As you can see, one is currently developing in India, and to be fully honest, I don't exactly know where the project's at the moment, apart from the fact that in 2016, two people contributed to buying a domain for the Open Food Network in India. All right, so other than that, just to give you a brief idea of how work is organized at the Open Food Network, you basically have a global community that's composed of 14 staff members, all of which are paid to develop and promote the platform. Then at the country level, you have teams that work on local developments of the platform and interact with the global community. And then you have users who are basically small-scale farmers, producers, or any kind of entity that organizes local food hubs. And just to give you numbers, as of 2020, the platform had, at the global level, it had enabled a total of 170,000 orders, which sum up to a total of 3.5 million euros worth of transaction. And as the co-founder of the French platform estimated, these numbers were supposed to at least double every year since then. And this is what we've observed with the French platform, which I will present to you now. So this one was created in 2016, initially as a non-profit, but which turned into Société Coopérative d'intérêt collectif at the beginning of 2020, which is basically a legal status that's equivalent to multi-stakeholder co-op. So again, just to give you numbers apart from those that are present on the slides, the number of basically as of 2022, the number of transactions that have been made on the French platform sum up to 4.3 million euros, and the platform today relies on the work on the paid labor of 5 part-time independent workers, as well as on voluntary contributions. All right, and another thing that you can see on the screen is the logo of Les Licornes, which is a network of French cooperatives in various sectors, of which Coop is part of, and that aim to transform the economy through the spread of digital principles. And as you can see, I've put up in red quite a lot of excerpts from the interviews I've carried out with the Open Food Network users and workers, and I'm just going to develop one point, which is one that relates to the main challenge that Coop is facing right now. It's finding the right economic model for it to be viable. So now the funding of this platform is based on the sales of the social shares of the platform, as well as a commission on sales. And basically, although the platform remains cheaper than its competitors in the sector, it doesn't raise enough revenue at the moment to pay for the platform and its workers at the global community as well, to say it simply. All right, and now I'm quickly going to give you an overview of the US platform that I'm also working on. And as you can see, the user interface is the same. One difference is that the US platform is managed as a non-profit, but it also shares cooperative principles among the global community. Okay, so I've also put up some numbers regarding the number of orders and of producers that interact on this platform. And in terms of labor, the US platform relies on the work of 4 active contributors, one of which is paid for by the global community. And yes, all right. One thing that I've noticed is that basically a lot of producers and shops that you see registered on the map here are actually not using the platform. So with those that I've managed to reach, they gave several reasons for that, but one of my hypotheses is basically that the platform is more active in places where you had pre-existing solid and active networks of farmers or local food hubs. So as the platform is being used more as a like a technological complement to their activity. And just to very quickly finish, I want to present 2 types of projects that I find interesting and that the OFN supports because they relate to scaling. One of them is data interoperability. So basically the English-speaking and French-speaking branches of the network together develop a common language or standard to make the transfer of data from one platform to another more easy. And then other types of projects are those that attempt to make local food hubs more socially inclusive. So with this, well, here you see that I presented basically the pricing model of the US platform is based on membership, but you have a little disclaimer at the top that says that basically historically marginalized communities can have access to the platform for free in exchange of non-monetary contributions, such as promotion of the platform on social media, for instance. And just to finish up, also what you see at the bottom here is an online catalog, again, of the US platform. And you see that you can select products based on different criteria, such as being able to pay for them with social benefits from the government food support program. And here, I see some similarities with the Aadhaar that you have in India and access to social benefits through social identity. And all that I've presented has some advantages and some limits, and I'll be happy to discuss all of them later on. Thank you.
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Ela. I'm based in Berlin. Yeah, based in Berlin. Now I'm here, and I will talk a little bit about Platform Corps Germany and what we are doing. This is us, the 3 founders and board members of Platform Corps Germany. Andreas, our co-founder, is with me. He's in the audience. And Claudia has to stay back in Hamburg, unfortunately. So our cooperative was founded in 2020, and our goal is to help other cooperatives to come into life and to thrive. This is our basic goal. This is what we are doing. And I will talk about what we're actually doing in a second. So we do a lot of pre-seed work, consultancy, but also lobbying for cooperatives. And we try to explore new cooperative paradigms, not only in Berlin, but also beyond. Rebuild Co-op is our motto, and that has to do with a long-standing German legacy of cooperatives. We have a lot of cooperative banks and supermarkets, etc., but many of them do not really operate cooperatively. And on the other hand, we have especially in Berlin, there is an amazing scene of cooperatives that are newly founded. A lot of them platform co-ops, but also cooperative supermarkets, etc. And they really want to reinvent the cooperative economy in many different ways. And over the past years, we have collected a couple of really important action items that we subsumize under Rebuild Co-op. And here you can see a couple of these action items, and this is really developing protocols for social coordination at scale. So how can we become better in activating a large membership globally? We are exploring new forms of decentralized governance. How can we actually steer these projects together, not only locally, but also in connection to a global membership? What else do we have? Legal frameworks. I'm really interested in learning from you how the legal framework in your countries work. In Germany, we have a very rigid legal framework, which on the one hand is fantastic because it really helps and it sustains cooperatives and protects them. But on the other hand, it also sometimes is difficult because it also keeps them from evolving and developing further. So there's still a lot of work to do. Intercooperation, we've seen it in the very first presentation. Cooperatives really should cooperate with other co-ops, because that, in our understanding, is really the goal. And there's still a lot of work to do. We're looking into new forms of member funding, not just member credit, but also other ways of funding money online collectively via new tools. So these are the main things content-wise we do. How are we funded? Well, we are a group of people we have founded without any funds, first of all. We are on a regular basis, we manage to get project funds. Right now, we are funded by Social Economy Berlin, which is an initiative of the Senate of Economy and also the German Ministry of Economy, that allows us to really do pre-seed consultancy work with cooperative founders, but also helping to transform existing organizations into cooperatives. So this is what we're currently doing and how we are financed. And yeah, that's just the overview. Cooperative business modeling, developing financial strategies, and and we co-found cooperatives. I think this is another really important aspect. For us, it's not enough to simply consult cooperatives, but we really want to be included and want to immerse ourselves into the actual work of co-founding these organizations, because that's where actually a lot of the work lies. And this is where people are very often needed to really getting our hands dirty in the actual work of building these organizations. We're doing a lot of lobbying work, mainly with Geno Digital, and this is all about making cooperatives in Germany more digital. We engage in community building and education, and we've heard before how important that is, because there's still so much work to do in educating people around cooperatives, despite the fact that many Germans live in an environment which was shaped by cooperatives, but many of them are simply not aware of it any longer. Our challenges, I would say our biggest challenge is to manage to get regular funds. This is something that, I would say you can all relate to, because I guess you're in a similar situation. And another big challenge I find is still having to explain the topic over and over again. Also, we did this morning. We should assume that many of us know about those principles, but still, again and again, we have to come back to explaining why this is a good idea, why it's worthwhile, why we are building capacity here. So I would say these are challenges. And if you want to know what keeps us going, people like you keep us going. The organizations, the platform we work with keep us going, because it allows us to have access to an amazing group of people. It allows us to really build infrastructures that we are convinced will help not only us, but also everyone else in the long run. And this is where our energy comes from, and this is what sustains ourselves. And that's me. And I'm looking forward to talking to you in the next days. Thank you.
I am Jenny. I come from this non-profit organization in Delhi called Digital Empowerment Foundation. Digital Empowerment Foundation was founded by Osama Mansur, with a mission to end information poverty. Osama could not be here today, so I'll be speaking about the initiative. Um, One thing, I mean, unlike a lot of people here, I was not really familiar with the idea of platform cooperativism. And then, when we were asked to speak, I thought like a good fit out of many digital initiative DF is doing is Mera app. Uh, so Mera app is actually, an app designed to sort of collect all the government schemes and entitlements in one place and then organize it in terms of, what is your gender, what is your age, whether you are a person with disability, and then, make it easier to deliver these schemes to the people. Just to give a context of how it emerged, DF was actually working on a project of entitlement delivery for 3-4 years. And, when they were doing it, they realized that it is not, like depending on, what is, like different states, their budget, which government is in power, all of these schemes keep changing. All of the eligibility criteria of these schemes changing. So, just to give you an example, imagine you're a migrant worker in Delhi and then you want to, you have this scheme called Building and Other Construction Workers Act, and you can actually, get a lot of schemes under that. So, you fell sick and then like 3-4 days you didn't get, paid. And the act actually has a provision to pay you for these 3-4 days you are taking off. But imagine a migrant worker in Delhi reaching and then trying to find, like, that person is never going to know about this app, first of all. Even if they know about this scheme, they can't access a computer center. Because if you just want to access the scheme, then you'll have to go through an entire set of paperwork to prove that you are a worker. So in Delhi, to prove that you are a construction worker, maybe you can prove that you worked, a union can certify you. But if you go to a different state like Uttar Pradesh, then you'll have to show a master roll and then say that, listen, I have worked for 90 days, which is again not possible for a migrant worker because a migrant worker works in different workplaces. So it's just one example, just to show the context in which the app emerged. So one challenge that we also try to address is the issue of sustainability. That even if you have a funded project that the project is going to end, so who is going to take up the service delivery, information as a service delivery? So Sushnapreneurs are a network of social entrepreneurs associated with DEF. So they basically use Mera app to deliver services to rural households and charge a fee for it. And they keep 100% of this charge to themselves. So we are active in 24 states in India in 2,000 locations. So, we provide, different entitlements to people. And Sushnapreneurs not only just deliver these, services or information to people, we also have a Telegram-based chat bot on digital literacy. So along with delivering the services, the chat bot also, which is a multilingual app where, how to use internet, how to use a computer is also simplified. And all of this comes with a set of different services the Sushnapreneurs are providing. Another aspect of it is that the Sushnapreneurs are not only connected with, like, they are not bound to only work for DEF. Mostly these people are also, people who are running a small shop in a village. You have a beauty parlor and then on the side of it, you want to, sell these services. The benefit of it is that you have last mile access to entitlement and services. Yeah, so I mean, these are some of the questions which I had in mind when, that when I actually thought about the concept of platform cooperativism and this, the service delivered here is actually information. And, it emerged out of a social need rather than a business idea. And, it's also not like challenging any large scale commercial platform, like, for example, drivers app challenging Uber. And it's mostly challenging the middlemen and the fraud on entitlement delivery. Some of the challenges which we deal with is, one, the app needs constant maintenance, and we are a non-profit, and we also had to raise funds for the maintenance of the app. The app also has a lot of bugs, so some of the functions do not work at times. So these are some of the things that has been pointed out to me by the team who is operating it. That's it. We can discuss individually if you have any questions. Thank you.
So maybe just to jump in for 1 second, which is basically what you see here is, I think that, as you saw with Platform Co-ops Germany, there are several incubators or accelerators like that around the world. So from Australia to Germany, to the United States and other countries where they are in the making. So that's an important part of this puzzle, right? And so is research, right? But there's clearly a business side to it, right? And there's a research component to it. So that's sort of like what makes that ecosystem thrive. And handing it over to Felix, who's a cooperative serial entrepreneur.
Okay, yeah, I'm also very happy to be here. Wonderful, and nice to meet you all. So I'm gonna actually use these 7 minutes to talk about 2 projects. First, a cooperative that we founded, a platform co-op that we founded in 2012, Fairmondo. It's an online marketplace owned by its users and employees. And yeah, I'm gonna be quick with that one. So it's a website, an online platform. So I just wanna, actually it became 4 lessons, not 3. Mention 4 lessons from that experience. I'm not working for Fairmondo anymore, so I'm just giving some insights that I personally have for anyone who wants to set up an online marketplace. So for me, it was really an insight that the offer is the crucial part. Like that's what you're showing to potential customers. They often say it's a chicken egg problem, but I feel it's not that. It's actually really focused on the offer first. Then a marketplace, in my view, is a lot about curation and making it easy for anyone visiting this site to find what they are interested in, but also to get access to quality and to in the jungle of potential products to find the ones that are actually, well, of high quality, of maybe sustainable background and so on. So this kind of selection, the filtering is very important. And I think this is in general for any type of business very important to involve your customers, involve ideally your members in how you design your product. And well, there are many tools for this that you can use, but I think the most important is to really reach out to members early, to your customers early, and involve them. I think this is one thing that we really learned. And if you create a marketplace and you're looking for a niche, I think it's also important to look for something where you really have regular needs so that you can create quickly a sustainable business model based on this. And I want to say, please reach out. You can reach me, for example, at felix@platform21.net if you're interested in marketplaces. I'm happy to talk about this, but now I'm going to talk about another project that I'm focusing on now, which is Cozy AI. It's about artificial intelligence and how we can use it to advance co-ops, but also how we can create a framework for owning artificial intelligence tools. Probably all of you know that there's an accelerating spread of AI around the world in business and in our economies. And it's hard to grasp actually what's happening there right now. But if you just look at the numbers of market size, you see that, and these are projections, you see that up to 23, there've been almost a doubling every year. And they are projecting that this is going to move on. But it's much more than that. It's going to be influencing technologies. And that's why all the big tech companies are investing in AI and in large scales, and this is also what I want to show with this slide. There are startups that have quite ambitious social or, you could say safety perspectives, like OpenAI, Anthropic, Inflection AI. They all have a focus on building safe AGI. And then they are all relying on funding and big investments, and also provision of CPUs, of compute power by, well, the large ones that we already know. And this is the current situation. So now we are creating a coalition to provide an alternative to this, and to see how we can use this emerging technology that's accelerating right now, and that's going to be more and more relevant in the next month and for sure years. How can we, among the platform co-ops that are already there and the tech companies that are already having a focus on cooperative mindsets and collective perspectives, how can we build a coalition to really use this tool, this new tool that's emerging there, and start early adapting it, relatively early. So for that, we want to create a global cooperative among tech co-ops and other people who are also as individuals interested in joining this. And we are aiming at offering so-called cooperative AI models. So there are already quite a few advanced open source large language models out there that we can use and that we can fine tune and adapt. I'm going to talk about this more in the afternoon, but the whole idea is that we already have among us co-ops a lot of resources that are valuable to building specific specialized AI that is helpful for cooperatives. And this is in particular in all the data that we have access to and that are unique to co-ops. So we are aiming at creating a framework for this. And yeah, that's so far. I'm just describing the plan that we have now. I'm going to talk a little more in the afternoon. And also, if you're interested in this, please reach out to felix@cozyai.net. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Hello. I want to do a thought experiment with you first before I talk about this. It's not really a thought experiment because it's kind of going to happen and it's happening already. But I want you all to think about however many years into the future that number is, to when you have stopped working, you're getting older, you're frailer, you may have any number of things wrong with you, and you are approaching your death. Who is around you? Who is supporting you? Who is available to you at that time? At that most precious and difficult and intimate time of your life? And what is society doing now? Who is society making available to people now who are experiencing that, both within and without this room? I'm sure that there are many mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, friends. Everybody knows someone. The problem that we have in the United Kingdom and globally is that nobody really cares enough to pay enough attention to fund that work properly and to really think about what it means to be chronically ill, to be disabled, to be growing old and what a good death actually looks like. Currently, in my country and in many others, you're very likely to get maybe a half-hour visit from a different person every single day who'll be in and out, who'll be on horrible wages, who will likely be a woman, likely be a member of an ethnic minority of whichever country, and who is almost definitely having a terrible time themselves and is also being exploited in various different ways. So how on earth can we care for the people who are growing old? How on earth can we build a society that's going to care for ourselves if we're not thinking about this from a systemic perspective, from a cooperative perspective, and from a rights and a social justice perspective? Is everyone there? So, oh my goodness, that wasn't the first slide. Yeah, no, that's not the first slide. No one can read that. Okay. That was. So you probably can't read that either. Equal Care is a co-op. We're a platform co-op. And we were set up to look at the way that power is distributed very poorly in the social care system and the health system, actually. So it's created to fund bureaucracies, it's created to support regulation, it's not about the people that are at the center of that process. It's not about the person who is receiving the care, and it's not about the person who is giving the care and support. So let's build an organization, let's build a society where it does start to be about that. We're one of the small ones, still. But one of the key things that we are seeing from the way that we work is a really, really high retention rate, so 98%. On average, and this is real data from the last couple of years, you will see around 3 people in your support. So that is 3 people who get to know you, who you get to know, you know your compromises, you know your challenges, you work through stuff together. And we do that through building a model that looks like this. There's not a smartphone in sight. So up on the right, there's Molly. Dora is the dog, and Iris. Molly supports Iris with Dora as well. And Molly is a member of Iris's team. So Iris, who's getting support, she chooses her team members, she builds her team. She also has other members of her team in there, so family members, people who are also supporting her from other organizations as well are all members of her team. Over here is Caring Commons, so there's community, and below that's an image of our AGM. And this is the structure that we've been working on building over the past 4 years. It's a labor of love. So a team is led and owned by the person getting support. Teams are then supported by local circles, and this is where this participation in management, the mention of the Mondragon principles really comes through. So every member of a team, regardless of whether you are receiving support or giving support or a family member, paid, unpaid, has a role and has a responsibility. We call these hats. And then the local circles are responsible for supporting those teams. And the circles are predominantly made up of workers, but in our area in Yorkshire, but in London, it's also members from the community, volunteers, other organizations that make up the circle. So a circle can be anything. We're also talking to a group of an African diaspora collective organizing movement for them to start up a circle to solve the problems that they're facing in their community with the kind of injustices that Black workers face in the care sector in London. Teams. There's the hats. So we all have different responsibilities that we distribute amongst members of the co-op. In a team, your responsibility might be around keeping the support profile up to date, which is usually kind of a province of management. It might be around organizing the rota, which is also usually province of management. It might be keeping the medicines up to date. Again, province of management, bringing it into the people who actually are doing the work, who know who know and can make the right decisions and work in collaboration with the person who's receiving support. It's like, it's not rocket science. It's really kind of basic. And then we use a process called sociocracy. I don't know how many of the people in the room have heard it, but to distribute those hats and to decide by consent who does what. Examples of different members of the teams. Oh, yes. And then there is a platform, because we are a platform co-op after all. But the real focus of the platform is on making things as simple as possible and on keeping the interface as simple as possible as well. So kind of instead of moving into more and more functionality, it's more about moving into more and more sort of different channels. So being able to communicate by SMS and even through the post, so that the interaction that you're having with this digital thing can be on any layer. And it could be in a conversation with the person who's supporting you that then gets kind of reflected in the platform, whether that's a kind of day-to-day change or any wholesale changes you might want to make in your team. This is a really, really hard thing to do. So it's simple because you focus on relationships, and every single member of this room, if you're even starting to think about co-ops, you need to be thinking about relationships and how they work and how they don't work, and what kind of dynamics can set up really flourishing, proud relationships where, in our case, the people giving the support and receiving the support remain in control of that work, or whether the organizations that we're building, kind of, I guess, collectively as a society, are demeaning and destroying those sorts of relationships. And I think that platform co-ops as a whole has a lot to say about changing the ground on which we walk, so the relationships and the communications that we have with members of society, regardless, instead of the management talking to the worker and the parent-child relationship, or the consumer provider relationship, we have the member-owner. We have a much, much more healthy way of looking at how to live and how to die. And I think that this is one of the great promises of this conference here that I really hope we can build on over the next few days, because care at base is the absolute core. Every single person in this room is going to have to face it, or has already faced it, or is facing it. It's a problem that is universal. So let's accept the challenge. I think that's all I have to say.
And then one of the small things that Emma didn't mention, at least from some of the member owners in the cooperative that I spoke to, they reported how their income had also doubled, and how the little things in life, right? And how, for example, this one worker mentioned that now he could afford to go to a fitness center, and how that contributed to his overall well-being enormously, right? Because he wasn't so stressed out anymore, right, by this job. Okay, so, and we are topping it off, not with the tea break, but with Akkanut, and I'm not quite sure where the slides are. Yeah, apparently, can you wing this without the slides, Akkanut? This may be necessary. Thank you.
Right. Yes, thank you, Trebor, and good morning, everyone. My name is Akkanut. I'm working as a researcher at the Institute of Asian Studies at Chulalongkorn University, Bangkok. Recently, I initiate a platform called Tamsang-Tamsong, which literally means you order and we deliver. At the beginning of the COVID pandemic, I conduct a research on the working conditions of the platform workers, and because of that research, we learned a lot about the relationships among stakeholders, and we found that, well, it's become, terrible because all stakeholders involved in the ecosystem, they got lost. And, because of the COVID pandemic, our government came out with the measurements that, not allow everyone to eat at the restaurant. You are allowed to buy and eat at home. I think, same with other countries. And because of that, then buying foods from platforms become necessaries, right? And their business was growing up like threefold. And beside that, the platform company came with an idea that, well, this is an opportunity. So they try to get more from the restaurant. They already get like 30%, 1/3. But at that point, they said, well, we need more. We need 35%. And I think, well, that's enough. That's done. So I talked with a group of motorcycle taxi in Bangkok, which we have a close relationship. We worked for years together. And they struggle with platforms, because when platform came, they were challenged because they lost their job security, right? And they cannot join the platform basically because what the platform offers, the algorithm was actually illegal. They were informal before, but they were legalized by authorities. And once they legalize, then there are regulations that they have to follow. And to join the platform, they will have to violate that. So they were not happy to join the platforms, right? But their struggles, they have no platforms by themselves. They want to have platform, but they don't know how to start. So from that background, we managed to work together. I have a group of students and colleagues. We start our own platform at one location in Bangkok. And well, when we first think of the concept that we are going to use for this platform, I realized that, past few years, I conduct a research with Dr. Green Sak here. I have to give him a credit because we conduct a research on the platform workers, and then we kind of discussed if there are any alternative, and he mentioned the term solidarity economy. That was the first time that we, I can imagine things that outside of the economic system that we live in, right? So when we started this project, we tried to adopt this concept, solidarity economy, which means that we care more about stakeholders, not shareholders. We, care more about benefits, not only profits. And we try to collaborate, not compromise. We let them, stakeholders fight against each others, and then we make them work together. So at the beginning, we are very struggle because we have a very limited fundings. We got a very small funding from the Thai Health Foundation Fund, like $3,000. That's not enough to build any kind of platform, right? But we managed to use several kinds of digital tools that we have, and we managed to, the process we call proof of concept, right? With that in the very beginning, after we spent some times, like 3 months, then there is a sign of success. And then the funders very happy that, with a very minimum budget, we can, create some kind of toolings that prove that, communities can work together, not only motorcycle taxi driver, but restaurant owners and people that live in the community can work together and own a platform by themselves. So they give us more money. My university is kind enough to give us more money. And now with that, fundings, we started to have our own real application, that we can work on iOS and Android, and also those who are not familiar with smartphones, we manage it to also use on the social medias. In Thailand, we have Lines, kind of messaging platforms, but lately Line would like to, create there as a super app, so they allow developer to work on their platforms. And so our platforms can serve those who use iPhone, those who use Android, and those who, have no not enough knowledge or digital literacy to use those smartphones, right? We offer them another method to use. Since we claim that this is a platform for opportunities, so we make sure that everyone would like to join are able to join. And right now we run like, all over Thailand, more than 10. And I would have to admit that it fails more than success, but there are some areas that, very success, for example, in southernmost provinces of Thailand. And because of that success, then it's motivate us to work more. And well, now we have several projects out of that. We also use the data that we have on our original platform to create another platforms. For example, the so-called Thai Economaps, which actually is very inspired, and I got the idea from the needs map that I saw from the website, and I think that we should have this kind of things that not only what people need and what people would like to offer, but for other activities like people that would like to have jobs, those people who find people that working for them. So we create this kind of platforms out of that. So just to show you an example of how we start very small, and within few years we create impacts, and now platform co-ops become things that we started to talk. We recently have Trebor give a talk in Bangkok, and it seems like from now on we have a lot of things to do. So that's from me. Thank you.
So we started with this big picture from the Kerala government, right, that sort of talked about their effort. We talked with this very high-level sort of introduction by Anita Goramurthy, and then we had this dialogical beginning where we outlined the principles, right, and the values of cooperatives, and tried to then apply this to cooperatives. I showed you a little bit about the impact in passing. So we touched a lot of people with this work, some 290,000 people through these conferences alone. And a lot of projects started out of our courses and so on. And then you saw the support system, right, like with Kagel, with Platform Corps Germany, for example. There's a similar group in the UK, out of Cooperatives UK. That's an incubator for Platform Corps specifically. There's Start.coop in the United States. There's Incubator.coop in Australia. So that's a really important part of it. And then you got a bit of a flavor, right, of these projects with, like in these important sectors like, care, for example, right, which I think has also a lot of applicability in Kerala, right, but also everywhere else around the world. But here in particular, because there is such strong support for cooperatives. And so this could really bring a model that could be really interesting. And of course, so is everybody else's, right? An intervention in agriculture, like the Open Food Network, and also in delivery with Akkanut's project, right? Okay, so we have a few more minutes, right? You said, so actually I might, believe it or not, there might be room for a question or two. So who wants to be brave? Is there a culture in Kerala where people ask questions?
Yeah, hello, my name is Anurag. I'm from National Cooperative Union of India. So my question is, all the platform cooperatives that you talk about or we have seen here, the common problem that every platform cooperative face is the lack of funds to build the infrastructure, funds to run that application, that software. So where will the funds come from? Because the members that we are catering with belong to the people from poor social and economic background. So where will the funds come from?
Well, we actually started to address this with the drivers cooperative, right? And I think one of source of funding that you left out was the National Cooperative Bank, right? That is also contributed. And then, philanthropy, member participation, crowdfunding, all options and things that we've seen, right? And of course, maybe we hand this over to Ken. Maybe with the microphone though. Right.
I think one of the things that we overlook in cooperatives, yes, we come from marginal groups. But I find that members are very interested in contributing to their co-ops. It's a sense of ownership. And so we found that drivers, many times when we told them that, look, we are going to start a new funding, many of them were anxious. So we take a 15%, but some were saying, look, you can take 20 and let us contribute every 5% for each trip. So I think don't overlook the contributions of membership to fund their own organizations. Thanks.
Hello, this is Trebor from NeedsCorp. I'm here with Mehmet Sarıca. So I had a question for Emma. I was really curious about your income model because like in Turkey, for example, people live on very, very small amount of pensions. So were they contributing to the model? I was curious about that. Do they give any money to just get these services?
Every funding system is different. They all have in common that they're underfunded for care. In the UK, there is a cap. So some people have to pay for their own care, but they are means tested. So if they have more than £23,000 in savings in the bank, then they have to pay for all of their own care and support. So it's a real mix of sometimes the NHS pays, sometimes the council pays, sometimes the person pays. What we're looking at, because care prices have gone like that with the inflation over the past couple of years, is developing, and this is actually in response also to your question earlier as well around funding, a form of transferable investment that is essentially almost like with Kickstarter, like you buy the product in advance, but because we're a co-op, you can use it as an investment. So for us, it goes on the equity side of the balance sheet. And you would buy care at a specific price, and then you use it as an inflation hedge. So you can then draw down on that once the co-op is up and running. So particularly as a way of raising that capital. But yeah, and then be able to sell it on to people who are still in a position where they have to fund their own care. Because yeah, it's really expensive. One of the benefits of working as a team and being very agnostic about the membership is that anybody who is giving care and support to that person, regardless of what the relationship is, and as long as that person consents, is then a member of their team. So it brings in a lot of kind of community volunteer, informal labor, family support, and starts to recognize some of that work.
My name is Esther Gichero. I'm from the Cooperative University of Kenya. And my question is on, I have forgotten the name. The one, Ken, yeah. Yeah, so he talked about the transport cooperatives and how you have formed the platforms through cooperatives. And what I was wondering is, for example, in my country, we have Uber services, Bolt services, and all those which are owned by other capitalists. Now, when you come to promote the cooperatives, the platform cooperatives, do you use the ones that already exist, or do you promote new ones so that later on those which exist can see the difference and come and join? I would just like to know exactly how you went about it. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. In the case of New York, as you know, for taxis, every situation is different. Because in New York City in 2017, there was a law passed that basically decentralized drivers' ability to drive for any of the platforms. And that was very important. It was a victory for a driver. So you could work for Lyft, you could work for Uber. So this was an advantage to us. So you found that drivers, when we formed the cooperative, they will tell us, look, I will do Tuesday and Wednesday for the co-op, but I will make my money elsewhere. But right now, we have a number of drivers that just drive for the co-op. Not because, well, partly because they are committed to the very idea of ownership of the platform, but also because they make good money. We have people that make up to $2,000 a week. I mean, of course, the extreme drivers who drive a lot, but most people can make over $200 a day, and so that is working very positively.
Thank you. My name is Queen Sak from Just Economy and Labor Institute, a nonprofit in Thailand. I think we should celebrate some more steps, more changes, like getting better paid, having decent work. But I would like to ask a bigger question and challenge our speakers. What do you think? How do we go from here to having a political movement that change the system? We want a better change. We want maybe not a capitalist version of the business model. What do you think? How do we go from here? Is it possible to have a political movement in cooperatives and maybe labor who join in climate activism, women's and everyone? That's my big question. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is such an important question. Thank you. I think what we don't have is we're not quite savvy enough yet, maybe, but to have like a very, very clear political brief and message, which, Trebor, I'm kind of looking to you for this, which we can then just roll off whenever we, but first I will go to you, whenever we come into contact with anyone in a position of political power. Now, as working as Equal Care, we're kind of punching above our weight, so I'm starting to talk to particularly, ministers, but mostly shadow ministers and fingers crossed incoming Labour government next year, to start thinking about how cooperatives as a whole, but particularly as a platform cooperative looking to scale, can be embedded into the economy and be supported. So they are actively looking at tax breaks and like a whole raft of policy changes that could then support the development of co-ops, including a big investment scheme, all sorts of things. So, yeah.
So maybe, I know we're out of time, but I guess one sentence I will squeeze in here to address the revolution. So I mean, it makes perfect sense, right? So, but you see is like dysfunctional federal government in so many countries, right? I certainly live in one with a entirely dysfunctional federal government. And so the question is, right, where federal labor law in the United States, for example, hasn't done for workers anything that has arrived positively in their life for the last 50 years, right? So cities have, right? Municipalities have taken some inroads. Labor unions, traditional unions have largely missed the train on the gig economy. The sort of larger transformative potential, I think, is definitely there when we align ourselves with other social movements, right? With unions, as we do with the SCIU and with many other movements. Look at the partners also of this event, right? So I mean, the attempt is definitely there, and I think the vision is probably one of a digital cooperative commonwealth, right? Where you have these sort of supply chains also being cooperatives north and south, right? How to get there, I think this is what people aspired to since the 1880s, right? So I don't have like a ready answer to you, but I think there are these sort of small responses.